Morning, this is Karl Dakin, and this is my Successful Funding Show. This is presented through LinkedIn Live and dual streamed into Facebook and YouTube. And the topic of today will be funding. And with me this morning will be my guest, Ron Yeager, who is basically joining us from the road. He is currently experiencing some audiovisual issues on linking into the studio. So hopefully he will join us here in a little bit. But for those of you who may be new to this particular form of presentation, this is live and interactive. You have the opportunity as a member of the audience to make comments, say hello, ask questions, or challenge us to answer a particular problem or solution problem that you may have that for which you'd like a solution. And so we will be here to work with you in that regard. So right now, I'll continue to work with Ron and see what I can do to.
Okay. I think
Yeah,
there, Karl.
yeah.
My device, so I'm using the second one. Yes, sir.
We're
Morning.
getting a lot of skip in your link.
Okay.
Can you hear me, Ron?
Yeah, is that any better?
Oh, that's much better. Your face is all blurry. I'm not sure how to sharpen your image. I can hear you fine now.
Okay, very good. Apologies for the connection and the and such, but yes.
Yeah, so I'll just tell everybody you're in one of the witness protection programs, and the blurring of your image was intentional, so that we can go from there. But the image is getting better. It's improving. It's actually pretty good right now. So anyway, as I was stating, everyone in the audience has a chance to join in today and participate in this live stream show. I actually welcome everybody's participation. It makes the show more interesting, and we'll go from there. But we're going to talk today as kind of a continuation of a show we had last week with Eric Hansen, where I'm inviting people like Ron who wear multiple hats. People like Ron are pervasive throughout the capital industry. Quite often, they are the thing that gets the job done as they work with wealthy individuals to help guide them in looking for new investments, in working with companies as an operator, and then various other roles that kind of fill the gaps between investors who may be too busy or may have decided that the hard work can be delegated to someone else. And here we are. So anyway, I wanted to invite Ron because he's worn all these different hats on looking at investments to talk through this morning. Why would anyone turn down a particular investment opportunity? This is something that I think a lot of small businesses and entrepreneurs kind of believe that there is this mantra or this checklist or these rigid protocols through which every investment opportunity goes when it's being evaluated. And the point I've been trying to make is that everyone has their own set of rules, and everyone will reject most of the deals they look at for reasons that have nothing to do with the merits of the opportunity. That there are so many other reasons why a deal will not get full consideration. And so I would, Ron, if you would, please share a little bit about how you got from where you're at or to where you're at today, not meaning in your car, but where you are in your career, and tell everybody a little bit about yourself so they have a better understanding of where you're coming from.
Okay, thanks, Karl. And everything Karl just said is true, by the way. So, but I'm I'm Ron Yeager, and I started out my profession then Fortune 36. I I was with the company for 17 years, and I was one of the top operational performers at the time. Great company to work for. But I wanted to start out my own and become an entrepreneur with, hopefully no ceiling. So the upside of that, but there's also downsides as well. It's not easy as most entrepreneurs might make it look. But I did out in 2000. We started an application service for apprentice technologies, which we exited in 2003. And, since then, about 9 different efforts that I would have been invited into, or that I initiated, that I invested in, and every one of them has had co-investors, and some have had co-founders. And currently, I'm the CEO of a software company, founder and CEO of a software company. The name is Provada. We are intending to create software.
We're getting some feedback through your microphone. We're getting some feedback, so it's like we're getting two signals. That's better. Yes.
My computer, which wasn't working, I closed the lid, and that was the feedback, I'm assuming. But anyway, so currently the CEO of a software company, Provada, and that we're almost a prototype with that, and it's a software tool that we propose can find all faults and all lines of source code. And if that comes to fruition, that'll be
Ron,
yes.
We're getting some kind of odd feedback where it's garbling your.
Okay. Okay. About now?
That sounded better. That's better. Yes.
Better. Okay.
It's not perfect.
It's not perfect. Let me try something different. Yeah. I'm not sure why that is, Karl. Let me figure this out.
No, that's better now.
Really quickly. Sorry, everyone. Okay. What about now?
Better? Yeah, better. Yes.
Okay. I'll leave my wired headset in then. Yeah, I'm involved with 3 different opportunities and companies right now. And the second one is Adazu. It's a affordable workforce housing company, modular housing. And, that I've been involved with that for nearly 2 years. And then the third opportunity, I really can't describe it right now, but it's a large M&A transaction, let's call it that. And that's with a group of investors in Arizona that want to conduct some transaction in California, and they've invited me to participate on that. And just to note on that, how this works is these investors, I'll call them that, large group, they are interested in investing in Provada, one of my companies, a software company, and they intend to do that. and they asked me if I could look at their opportunity in California. So they would like me to assist them with that effort. And from that, they're going to participate in my effort. So talk about a convoluted financing pathway here. It's you you never know what you're going to get. And but it's all good. It's usually is a smile on my face, except when my laptop and my phone aren't working well. But other than that, that's kind of the intro there, Karl.
Well, by the time you completed your intro, your voice and image are now optimal, and so we're good to go. So
Good.
uh, I had Eric Hansen on last week, who has done a lot of similar things where he's run and operated companies. He's worked with investment funds. He sits on some boards for different funds. And I basically asked Eric straight up. I said, okay, a deal hits your desk. It may be on a napkin. It may be a full blown investment package with hundreds of pages and digital documents and so forth, or somewhere between those 2 points. But when you first see it, what's the first thing that goes through your mind in terms of whether you're actually going to look at this package or you're just going to toss it in the trash can?
Yes, that's a good question because the thought is different every time. And I have had international deals, the solution proposed on a napkin, and and so I have had that. Um, the first thing you look at, and each investor, they have different thresholds and different types of due diligence they might conduct. What I look at typically, with I worked with VC firms, and they can have a deal that's 95% perfect, and because of one piece of it that is, in my mind, solvable, they won't touch it. So what I look at my level is, the number one thing that is going to be a fatal flaw for me is, do I get along with the investors? Do I get along with the group of people? And are they passive investors? Do they call you every week and want to know what's happening on something that's going to take 3 years? So that's the first thing I look at, Karl. It's I want to know who these other people are. And interestingly enough, different cultures within this country and then internationally, everyone moves at a different pace. And so, most people want to define and know who you are. And really good investors don't put you in a box right away. They'll listen and they'll get to know you over time. And then you can move forward. And that's out of all the possibilities and the characteristics, that particular characteristic, if you will, has been present every time.
Okay, so this is where an investment group brings you a package and says they're thinking about investing in this particular company, and they're asking you to take a look at it. And is that with regard to your co-investing or to maybe being the jockey and riding this company for a while? Or how would you describe your role in working with the investors?
Right. Um, the role is, what is the need that they don't have, and do I fit that need? And so, I bring a track record, um, I bring experience, and so that it's got to be about the need, and and then of course it has to be investable, because what I previously described about relationships and getting to know people, that's irrelevant if it's not investable. Not investable meaning there's one or more fatal flaws why this won't work, you know. But
Yeah,
yeah,
so you've got two-step approach. First, you've got to figure that the investor group is one you can work with. And then you go to the other side of the coin, so to speak, and you look at the deal itself, and you ask yourself if it's investable, and you refer to fatal flaws. And this is something I've been talking about over the last week in my instant funding newsletter, is that there are lots of flaws that are fatal. but not
Yes.
everybody understands what those flaws might be. So share with me your perceptions, your flaws as you would identify them that would cause you to kick a deal out
Yeah.
immediately.
How much time do I have on this topic, Carl? Can-
Well, we've got about 45 minutes left,
oh, okay,
but
great.
we'll
Perfect.
start with the top of your
No,
list.
the
What's your top number one reason for kicking a deal?
um it would be uh top number one reason I because you know I might work with or invest in the past on a deal, one deal out of every 30 or 40 I see. And the 30 or 40, they're warm deals. So it's not just a cold turkey thing. So, but the probably the number one thing is I am amazed by a lot of deals that I see that have potential of a lot of backing financially and investment wise, or uh, whatever, or unique ways of financing it. But it's that the ship has already sailed. That's what I'll say. I mean, I don't know how many people I've met in the last few years that want to start their version of Uber. And it's like, okay, and they have some Uber's the technology company, for instance, and they think that they can do it better, and there's no proof of that, and I already know it won't happen. So, that's just a lot of people have these emotions to things, and you need like Spock on Star Trek and look at things without the emotions. But that's the number one thing. Number two would be the who who are the people that are operating the company, that are starting it up. Can they go through different the growth stages, and can they ramp this up? And it's okay if they only work 40 hours a week, but their hour needs to be 2 hours versus a normal person. It's fine. So, but the dedication of the team and how efficient are they? And one of the things I was fortunate to do at United Parcel Service is I taught time management to the management groups, and that was in physical environments, and also how you manage your workload. So if you find someone that is really good, everything they touch turns to gold. That's because they worked really hard at that, and it's not as easy as it seems. But the team has to be good. The product has to be a lot of things I've been involved with in the last few years. We have an engineered product, or like a machine, let's say. And so you want to release the product or the machine and hit the market with it. Then you also want to value engineer it, the machine, which means you want to make it maybe more efficient, less expensive, and such. And sometimes those things are played too close to the vest by the founders, and they're not interested in doing that. So that'd be a deal killer, because everything can be improved if you don't have a constant process of improvement. It might go out the gates really well, but it's not going to survive as you scale up.
Okay, so let's hold that thought for a moment. I'm going to come back and grill you with some really tough questions. Um,
Perfect.
so, in the audience this morning, I have Don Cohen. So, uh, welcome this morning, Don, to the show. Don is my mentor on doing LinkedIn Live, and he has been working with me and several other startup or young businesses, or just in my case, a mature business that still needs to grow up. But uh, he is helping me build my brand with other people who are also supporting startups and funding and getting money into businesses. And he's just been a wealth of experience. And anyone who's considering doing their own LinkedIn live show, you should look at Don's offerings. He has a very reasonably priced set of services to bring you from zero to my current level of success, whatever that may be. But I'm still building on that. So, Don, thanks for being with us this morning. Now we'll go back to Ron let's go back to your first statement. You made a statement about the train has already left the station. And so I would describe this as kind of a person who sees someone else being successful and somehow gets it in their head that they can do the same thing but do it better, which is possible in some cases. I mean, the first to market is not always the best to market. So it is possible you can come in on somebody who has spent all the time and energy creating something new, building up a market, and then you can basically leapfrog them by saying, I can do the same thing better, cheaper, faster, quicker, and so on. And but as you inferred, um, why? Why do you think you could do something better? I mean, it's one thing if they come in and they hand you something and go A/B comparison, and they are B, and B is clearly superior, heads and shoulders above A. But too often they come in and it looks just like A.
Yes.
So um, and so you kick them loose at that point because you apparently don't believe in miracles twice.
That's true, and I really like it when they uh, repeat what they say, talk louder, because I simply don't understand. So, but right, I recently had someone approach me. They invented a board game similar to Monopoly, but for the marijuana industry, and they have a patent on part of it, on a photograph. I think that's what the patent's on. Um, that's great and everything. And I asked him how long he's been working on this, and he responded, since 1999. Okay, so there's nothing unique and novel about this, and I had some ideas on how to improve the board game, like major growers or major sellers or dispensaries or distributors, they can buy a Park Place, on the board, and then he can get revenue from that. They get advertising, and it could be big, but it just the the thoughts of this the founder, great person, but they've not matriculated or matured to 2024. That's what I'll say.
Okay, well, now you've opened up another whole
Yeah.
bag of problems there when we get into the inventor um, entrepreneur crossover. So, but yeah, I see a lot of people come to me and they say, I had some people come to me and they were going to do a home service bureau of some kind that would have competed with a number of things that are out there. And their answer to being better was, we're going to charge people a fee. And I'm going,
Right.
so your competition is already giving their stuff away, and you're going to beat them by charging everybody money who ordinarily would get it for free. And they're going, yeah, that's how we're going to be better.
Right.
And it kind of goes to the point you just made is you'll meet an entrepreneur or wannabe entrepreneur who thinks that they have some new improvement over something that's out there, something new under the sun, and they don't seem to understand the marketplace. And I'm willing to bet almost 100, lay good money on this, that they've never ever tested the marketplace. They haven't gone out and talked to a customer and asked them point blank, do you think this is good? Do you think it's better? would you buy this instead of everything else that's out there? They seem to get it in their head that they're right and the rest of the world will accommodate them or adjust to them. And it's one of the flags that I have. It's lower down on my list because I have so many things ahead of it. Not that it's unimportant, but we use a term in the consulting field whether somebody is coachable, meaning that you bring expertise, your experience, skills to the table, and you're talking to someone who obviously has less skills and less knowledge and may know little or nothing about what you're talking to them about. And some people will listen attentively. They will interact with you. They'll ask you questions that show that they're willing to do what's needed to be successful. And other people are basically saying, I'm talking to you, but I'm not listening. I'm not going to pay attention to anything you say because I'm right. I've determined this is how we're going to go to market. And you find yourself asking the question, why are you talking to me? If you're
Right.
not looking for help or assistance, then really there's no point in this conversation. And since I may not be charging you yet for this conversation, I have a reason to exit the conversation quicker.
Yeah. No, that's so true. And you know, the, there are ways when it's when it's a deal like that, that if a few things would change, um, it would make it a more viable deal. And I look at this myself because I have an impression on, from my past experience. If I look at something new, but what I have to remember is I have to look at it in context. It's 2024. This is what the environment is. This is what the market could be. And so you whatever I knew in the past doesn't all it's relevant to what I might be doing in the present, but it's largely irrelevant because I have to, educate myself and bring myself up to speed. I mean, the state of Colorado, their legislative session runs for 6 months, I believe, every year. They pass 600 laws, and some of those pertain to maybe something that an entrepreneur is doing or a founder of a company. So you have to stay current, number one. And then the other thing too, Karl, is the customer. Like, who's your customer? That's what you kind of touched on, in customer discovery. And if you, in the Front Range area here, when you look at different incubators and cohort programs, a large focus of that is customer discovery. And so maybe you have a great idea, but the market doesn't need it right now, or if you tweak it a little bit, then it'll resonate more with the customers who are the market. So I think everyone can use more attention and diligence in that regard, in determining who the customer is, and then how you're going to make money if that's your goal.
Yeah, so I'm going to take this particular issue up at two levels.
Hmm.
Um, uh, yes, the all the best practices in entrepreneurship, small business, innovation management, and all talk about the phrase "know your customer." That's a phrase that if you keyword search it, you'll get volumes of information that ultimately boil down to this: if the customer doesn't buy it, then it doesn't matter.
That's right.
And um,
That's it.
it seems like a Captain Obvious type of a statement that so many people will go to market. They go through all the manufacture, preparation, production of services or products. They'll do all the promotional materials. They'll set up their websites. They'll buy all their advertising material, create an inventory, and then nothing but crickets. And they're going like, nobody's buying this, and they act shocked. And you're like, how can you find yourself in a situation where you invested all this time and energy without knowing if anybody's going to buy something? And it seems strange to me that if you're in a relationship or you want to be in a relationship with a customer, that you would fail to talk to the customer about everything you're doing and whether they would buy it or not. But I'm going to take this to another level because I take the same viewpoint when people put together an investment package and carry it out into the market and start pitching for money. Um, Again, same kind of issue. They put everything together, they lock it down. We're going to give you X% of the company and this, for so many years and so forth and so on. Here it is. And then they wait for a check and they wait and they wait because whatever it is they put together isn't going to resonate, isn't going to get that check from that investor candidate. Now, it could be for the primary reason they're talking to the wrong person, but why would they develop this entire capital campaign without having any idea how people are going to react to it? And if it's potentially something of interest to one group of investors, but not to all investors, then they should know that. If it's of no interest to any investor, they definitely should know that.
Yeah.
And yet I see this over and over and over again. I have people come to me and they go, "I need to raise funding. Here's the deal," and I'm like, "Who did you talk to determine that this deal is something that's saleable, that somebody will invest?" And the general answer is no one. And I go, "Then who told you that this would work? How do you know?" And you get a lot of interesting answers to that point. Most of them are pretty lame, um, where there are people who are not accountable for what they told the person. Uh, and you just kind of look at it and you go, well, I'm afraid we're going to have to basically scrape this and build from scratch. And again, the answer is, well, I can't afford to wait. I need the money yesterday. And I'm like, well, you've painted yourself in a corner. I'm not sure that I'm at a point now where I can perform miracles. I'll have to go check on my status, in that category, because a deal can get too far gone that you can't pull it out of the hole. You can't save it, and you certainly can't save it in time to do the person any good, because raising capital does take time. It is based on relationships. If you don't have a relationship with a potential investor already in place, then you have to go create the relationship in order to get to the investment. Um, there's not a row of investors like slot machines in Vegas that are ready to throw money at you if you happen to get the right combination going. Um,
Yeah.
so
I
I
I
think
did.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I first off, I wanted I've been to places like Vegas. I've been to Vegas. I don't recall slot machines throwing money at me, but maybe that's a new part of Vegas.
Well, I
But
mean, it's your
I know,
chances are not that good.
right, right. That's what I mean.
Well,
And
but
go ahead, Carl. Good.
I was just going to say that it would be interesting to compare the statistics of making a pitch to an angel group, which have been measured at 2 out of 100 fundings come out of that, with what are your odds of throwing a dollar into a slot machine in Vegas, where particularly the slots near the door are supposed to pay out, maybe 50% of the time. You
Hmm.
would be better off playing the slots.
That's right. Well, yeah, the customer discovery piece, it's interesting to me because my I worked at United Parcel Service. I was high up in the company. I knew that they had a damage problem with their shipments, and shipments get damaged in transit. So I left there on good terms, became an entrepreneur, and I think fourth company in, I came across some people that were inventing a packaging product made out of cardboard, folded from a fan fold or fan folded bundle of cardboard through a machine and turned it into 1 inch triangles, 1 inch square on each side of the triangle. And then the number one thing about this product is it prevents damages, unlike the competitors' products on in the market at that time and currently, whether it's bubble wrap or styrofoam peanuts. So my customer discovery happened during the prior 17 years. So I was well suited and well matched to, not only uh, create the investment and the money, I generated within 2 months, and it was a few $1 million to get this going. And then from that, I became the CEO of this startup company. But that's just the best possible example of customer discovery that I know of personally for me, because I lived it every day, and I never worked directly with the damage claim payouts. Like if you call and shipping company, post office, DHL, FedEx, UPS, you complain about your damage package, and then they're engineered, the customer service agents brains and the protocol and the script they follow are engineered to blame you for the damage because you didn't package it correctly. And so this was a game changer. But if I didn't have that experience at United Parcel Service and operations, I would have looked at this thing and just walked on it. I would say that's crazy. No one's ever going to do that. But and then it's just the customer thing. The other thing I'll talk about real quickly is entrepreneurs and inventors, but entrepreneurs, they spend a lot of time and effort and precious financial resources on the fun things, like a really nice website, whether they have a little nice office space, which isn't so prevalent anymore, but they'll go out to lunches, they'll do these things, and they don't do the heavy lifting, which includes customer discovery. You need to do the heavy lifting, the dirty jobs, the non-glamorous things behind the scenes, and listen. And that educational piece from that, if you have the other things in place, like you have access to financing, or you can get that, assuming these milestones are met, then that's great. But I would say over half the inventors I meet in startups, they don't do the heavy lifting, and heavy lifting is a broad category, and it could mean they're working full time at a job, and they can only work on this entrepreneurial project for 10 hours a week. No, it's probably not going to do it. If you're the number one person in the company that founded it, believes in it, and is developing it, then why are you contributing so little time to it? Is if you're not contributing time, I don't know any investor, including myself, that would put anything into that. So it's the heavy
Yeah,
lifting.
well,
Got to be done.
that's a timing issue, as I call it.
Yeah.
My first advice to anyone who wants to start their own business is not to quit their day job.
Right.
And
Right.
that's partly because the cash flow from the day job is funding the new venture, and it represents hopefully a stable source of income as you figure all these things out. As you do know your customer, you engage them, you ask them questions, you make uh, uh, modifications or enhancements to your product or service until you know you have a winner. You keep kind of one foot in the stable part of the world and one foot in the unstable entrepreneurial world
Hmm.
until you figure things out. But you're correct. At some point, when you go out to the world and go, hey, I want to bring this to market and I want you to give me your money and I'm going to use your money to bring this to market. They're not betting on a part-time type of management team. They're going to want you to be fully committed to that. That doesn't mean you can't have a second job or moonlight or do other things, but they want to see their investment dollars placed with precision, with professionalism, with a commitment, and that's another thing that comes up in my review is I see entrepreneurs pitching their deals, and you always get the sense that if they find a different deal that green is, the grass is always greener, that they would jump to this other deal. And I laugh at entrepreneurs who will make a pitch that I'm all in. This is me. This business represents my soul, my thinking in the world, and all that. And then when you ask them, well, if I invest in you, how do I get my money back? They immediately respond, well, I'm going to flip this to a larger company, and I'm going to let them take it, from that point forward. And I'm like, well, if this is really what you're all about, then are you selling your soul?
Yeah, right, right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and the conflict between the statement "I'm all in" and "I'm willing to be bought out entirely in 3 to 5 years" is an incongruity that I immediately mark them down as they're not real players. They're not really into their business. They're here to make money by flipping it to someone else, and I call those people short-termers or shortcutters, because what I have found invariably is they won't do everything to make the business succeed. They will only do those things they think will lead to the purchase of the business, which often means there's flaws or lack of foundation or some other problem with the business. Um,
Yep.
but Going back to one of your original statements, you said that when you're working with a VC group, if the deal's not perfect, they just reject it. Um, and this is because, to some degree, these guys see lots of deals. They don't fund all the deals. They can cherry pick because within the scope of the amount of money they have, they may say, we only invest in 5 deals this year. So I get 1,000 different opportunities. I only need to fund five. So by definition, their role is to skip through all the stuff they're never going to fund and get down to the semifinalist
Hmm.
and go that route. When a VC kicks something loose immediately, what are they? Why are they kicking it loose? What is one of the one of 5 or 10 things that they may say, no, out of here and move on to the next deal to take a look at?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and every answer is going to be different. I One of my first companies with a partner, we went to a VC firm in Boulder, Colorado, and they looked at this. We wanted the money to expand operations in Europe, and it was a $5 million investment. No, it's more than that. I'm sorry. I think it's 13 million. And so we went in front of the group, and then they they were, and it's a process, so it takes some time, and it took some time, 3 months, and we put together 3 ring binders worth of information, which I don't know if that's still the process. What the reason why they wouldn't fund, they were going to fund us. They agreed this looks good, but they had a caveat that the CEO of the company could still retain their ownership, but they weren't going to be a part of the new company going forward, the newly invested company going forward. I could stay in my role as the COO, but the CEO had to go. And the CEO, of course, well, not of course, I take that back, but they were appalled by that, and it was yeah, I don't know what that borders on because I'm not a psychologist. I don't know if it's narcissism or what that was, but it made a lot of sense because they actually had someone in mind to recruit. That they have people on their list of who, if they're looking at a company and they're doing a merger, for instance, or they're investing, they have some people in mind that talk to them and see if they'd be interested in helping be the interim CXO. But our deal fell through because the CEO said no, he's not going to do that, my partner, and so that's why they didn't fund that one. Okay, and that's when we were at the, we were in the batter's box. We got, we get to go take a swing at this with money funded, and it was, then they said no because the one small part of our company, that couldn't change. And then there are many other reasons that and I've talked to VC firms. I've been recruited by VC firms to run portfolio companies. And it's a tough thing. They want it to be the VC firm wants the hard things to be easy or have a natural natural resource or a person or a group of people that are gifted naturally to overcome whatever that hurdle is. And it's hard to find those people. And especially if they're, investing in a company and they put their own people in, then you have this corporate culture uh, change, which is it could be small or it could be seismic, and that could damage the company. So that's what they don't want, though. They don't want the noise. They don't want the hair. They want it to work. They want it to match up well with their investment thesis. And then if there's something that needs to be plugged into place or done, like remove one of the existing officers or add someone that they trust to run part of it for 2 or 3 years, then they'll do that deal. But and there are a lot of deals like that are good enough, but they yeah.
So let's go back to your original preface. You said there are many reasons why a deal gets turned down. And this is another point that I try to make to entrepreneurs and small businesses seeking capital is, again, they think that there is a rule book somewhere that says if you do things in this way, then you will get funding, as though it's an automatic outcome to what you do. And a lot of the books out there, which I basically do not like, will talk about formulas and scripts and the route to success, 10 steps to $1 million valuation and all these other promises, which are usually unfulfilled. But I have found every investor is unique, or every investor group is unique. Even if they have a style where they're saying we invest in oil and gas as an industry, or we only invest in later stage companies that have stable revenue. They all have their own formulas
Mhm.
that are what they look at, that for some reason they have selected to guide them in what deals they're going to look at. And the you have to know what those criteria are. You have to know what they invest in. You have to know if you match up to that particular investor group. And too many times I've seen entrepreneurs come to me and say, "Well, I'm pitching to this group," and I go, "Why are you doing that? They're never going to invest in you." And they're
Yeah.
going, "Oh no, I'm so good that they're going to set aside all their rules, all their criteria. They're going to make an exception for me because I'm that good." And you're just kind of looking at them thinking that, you feel sorry for these people who don't understand that uh, these companies with the funds don't need to make any exceptions. They don't need to waiver at all from their rules, because they only need to pick a few handful at most of deals to invest in to meet their criteria. They are reporting to their investors, the people who put money behind them to invest on their behalf. They have a responsibility to them, but because they see so many deals, they only have to pick a handful, and if they cherry pick, there's probably at least another double handful that would easily also meet their criteria, but for one reason or another they pick this one over that one. But the vast majority, they're out of here.
Right. And that's it's always going to be that way, I think. In my lifetime, it's been that way. I don't see that changing. And I'm kind of intrigued by artificial intelligence is great, but artificial general intelligence, AGI, when that shows up in 10 to 30 years, that I won't be around maybe, but that would be interesting to see and how that affects investment. And you said a couple things, Karl, and it stuck out because I create my own nomenclature, my own thoughts on this, and the more if thens that an entrepreneur has, the more nervous I get. Like if people could only see how great I am and how much different this is, then it will work. And if then, um, that's how we talk, But when they're concentrated on that, or if they say, I'll mimic and mirror what you just said. If only they knew, how great I am, and then the few times I opened that tab and looked at it, I look at their peer group, and it's, maybe their neighbor, maybe their spouse, and maybe a couple other people. But are they out there in the industry? Do they go to trade shows, things like that? And I will tell you, and I was just remarking about this the other day, that um, everyone that I'm doing business with right now, I did not know any of them 8 years ago. So you have to, whatever your industry is, you want to stay current. You want to have fun going to a trade show, or have fun. Like, last month I was involved with Boulder Startup Week, and from those efforts, meaning I was a facilitator at one of their events, but from those efforts, I've contacted 77 people of uh, uh, verbal. I'm volunteering to help a few different organization individuals, and so that's the example. I don't need to talk in there, but that's an example. Just exposing yourself to other things, other thought processes, and sometimes maybe not in your industry, because I believe, and this is my thought. I've not read this in a book, but I think that 80% of the skills in being an entrepreneur in different industries, 80% of the skills are transferable. Whether you create a financial pro forma, whatever, the 20% is unique to that industry. So you have to be good at that, whether it's packaging products or a software tool or what have you. So, staying really relevant and doing that when there's no obvious benefit to doing that. You don't go into something or an event or a convention saying this is how it's going to turn out and this is my goal. You keep it. You have some goals, but they're not the absolute goals. And most all the time for myself, the byproducts and the other things turn into the real deals. And maybe it's a timing thing, maybe it's, whatever, but it starts with a relationship, and you're not going to have relationships unless you go out there and have relationships, but not in a manipulative way. It's just to learn what the world is doing, what the market is, what they're doing.
Yeah, it is interesting how it seems like everything you learn some days is absolutely worthless. It's
Yeah.
like it's got it was kind of like the what did they call it, the racing predictions for the horse track yesterday. They don't do
Yeah.
me any good today because that information became obsolete as soon as the race was over. And there are a lot of elements like that in every small business, every startup. Is we talk about market windows, we talk about optimal times to get into a market or get out of a market, first mover advantage,
Hmm.
second mover advantage, things like that. And these are all things that a person really has to understand and have a perspective, not just their perspective, but everyone who's going to be impacted. When I talk about stakeholders in the success of a business, I look at the entire supply chain from the suppliers and vendors on one side to resellers and customers on the other. I look at the government programs, social causes, my team, anyone who may benefit from the success of a particular business. Because if there isn't enough benefit taking place, I'm competing with everybody else who may be creating more benefit. And when I'm
Right.
out looking for dollars, I want to be better than. I don't want to be equal to. I don't want to be okay. The stand up, be superior, be better than all come into play because you're competing for this money all the time. And so when you make a pitch, standing on a soapbox and telling everybody you're great isn't going to get the job done. Because if you were that great, they would have come to you and asked you to come run a show for them. And they would have hunted you down, because there is a scarcity of people who know how to take any particular business and move it forward. So we're we're still talking about rejecting deals because they're not ready, they're not complete, they're flawed, they have defects. These are all things that can cause somebody to reject the deal. And as you pointed out, Ron, the more professional the investment group is, the more they are defined in who they are and what they're doing. They simply pick the ones that can check all the boxes. You or I have a tendency to go, yeah, there's one box missing, but I can fix that because that's what we do.
Yeah,
But
right.
the investor group doesn't care. They said, I don't have to accept any of these that are not perfect from their personal, individualistic, one of a kind criteria for how they look at the deal. So when somebody comes to you with a new opportunity, what's going through your head as you're talking to them for the first time? What's what does Ron Yeager want to see?
Well, there's a few things I want to see. I want to know what the market is and the potential for this new widget or new idea or the new phone app that I looked at last week. Um, what's the market for this? Number one. Number two, I want to know the experience of the inventor or the company founder or the entrepreneur, and what it makes a difference to me that if they have put a lot of effort into this and it's moving forward, it has some traction, and maybe they don't know what the next step is exactly, but they did get a $20,000 mortgage on their home and they used the money wisely. That whatever they used it for, that makes sense to me. They didn't they used it for the heavy lifting. And so I'll look at those things, and it has to be detached in different silos or through filters, because most everyone I meet, they're great people. They're great people. It'd be fun to have a cup of coffee with them, hang out maybe, and just chat. And that if they have their mind together and they can answer a question on the fly, a unique question, they can answer it, and the answer makes sense. I mean, maybe they thought of it prior, but there's at some point they're going to have to answer questions that they maybe didn't think about, and then they'll give you an answer, and the answer makes sense because they logically thought through the question, gave you a good answer. So I look for all these things. It's just, and then what I also look at their personal circumstances, like are they at a point in life that they can do this, that they can sacrifice this, that some of the things I might have done, are they going to be able to sleep in the car for a week while they're on a road trip to do something? What's their sacrifice level, and what's their risk level as well? Not risk tolerance, but risk level. um, and a lot of people that are entrepreneurs or startup entrepreneurs, they're worried that this is all they have and they're going to lose it all, and that's true. And so, you do need the backup plan or keep the day job, what have you. But I look at all the different things, and there's not one over the other, Karl. It's all equal in my head.
No, there is a multitude of factors that contribute to success. You need to see the entire set of ingredients. You can't bake a cake and only look at a single ingredient without considering whether or not, I may have the sugar, but if I don't have the salt, the cake's going to go this way. Uh,
Yeah.
so I think that's part of it. But Um, uh, these are all good observations for entrepreneurs, small business leaders to take into consideration that when you pitch, everybody's different. You need to know if you match up with them. You need to know if you're going to be in the semifinal round or if you're going to get cut before you even start.
Right.
A lot of what I practice is telling people don't waste time talking to people who never invest. It doesn't do you any good. You don't get any points with the person who turned you down. Um, so don't go there. Don't spend your time and resources. You need to focus on those, as I describe it, love you more than you love yourself.
Right.
So with that, we are at the end of our hour. So Ron, I do thank you for being on the show today and sharing with everyone your insights, your thinking as you wear these different hats and working with funding sources and with your own projects and different entrepreneurs who are trying to go to market. And it continues to show that raising money is a challenge. When you're raising money, though, the term "know your customer" also applies to know your investor. If you don't know who they are, what they invest in, or anything else about how they make their investment decision, then you're just kind of shooting in the dark. And there is a very, very low probability you're going to hit anything. Um, Thank you to the audience today for being in the audience and being part of this successful funding show. We'll be back next Tuesday at a regular time with a guest yet to be identified. That's not a mystery statement. It's just me trying to catch up with myself. Wilson, thank you for being here, and we'll talk more later. So, Ron, hang on, and